Game on! We've been a little bit plagued with these things recently. Blizzard is currently releasing quite a few updates on Warcraft 3, and let's just put it like that. Not all of them make things better. There's also a lot of new bugs that unfortunately are getting snuck into the game. But in this case, let's hope that the video is going to run through properly. We have currently on Last Refuge down to the bottom left, we're actually seeing Shocker again. Different account for him, but the German Undead player faces off against Grubby, who up to the top right spawns now against Nightelf. Grubby, of course, main race is still Orc, but even back in the day when we're talking about early the Frozen Throne, Grubby actually played a lot of Nightelf. Especially since Nightelf for some reason never really had a bad patch. It's actually a little bit amazing. Quite often Nightelf was the strongest race in the game, and I think right now we can definitely say that they probably are, especially given the results of the last big tournament in China where we had another Nightelf versus Nightelf mirror. But I actually thought about it, and I don't think there was a time when Nightelf was ever the weakest race in the game. So Nightelf players always quite powerful, have a lot of tools and a lot of diversity in the style that they play. And it was one of the reasons back then when Orc was struggling a bit, when Grubby started back then as a early pro gamer to play a lot with Nightelf himself and had a very high level ladder account, and wanted to use that first of all to be familiar with the weaknesses of Nightelf by just experiencing it by himself, and at the same time obviously also going to see if maybe in a tournament with a race switch he would be able to give himself an advantage on a certain map. Be it as it may, we're currently having the Keeper played again as the first hero here. Now, some players, as Starship for example, have started to play a lot more around the Demon Hunter after we've seen the recent nerfs against the Keeper, which back in the days and in previous patches was always a solid option for Nightelf. But right now, we're actually having the Keeper played again. And the Keeper offers a lot of advantages in the early game in particular, because you can, first of all, harass if you want to, if you go into an Entangle on level 1, but you can also creep quite easily with Treants, and on top of that, you control pretty much the early game if you're going into a couple of tier 1 units, because you can always force a fight on your own terms. But in this case, we're actually seeing Treants first, so it's all going to be about the creep for now for Grubby. And that means that we're having the Death Knight heading straight in for the harass and trying to play around that. Without Entangle, there's not too much pressure on the DK, and he's going to try and get, first of all, this one eliminated. Didn't quite work out for him, but he might be able to take down that Ancient, and yep, drops the Ancient of War. Great start into the game by Shocker. Grubby definitely being caught off guard there a little bit, took a lot of damage on the Ancient of War originally, and losing that so early in the game is always a bit of a problem. Ancient of War is being built in the main base again, and in the meantime Grubby trying to creep, whereas we have Shocker coming in from the side, level 2, and Tangle is now in. That's going to make it a bit more harder for the Undead player to make a difference here. Already we're seeing the Rod of Necromancy down to 2 charges, by the way. Item also taken by the Keeper, and that means that we're now having the extra damage on the auto attacks. Always awesome to have that on a ranged damage dealer. But of course, in the long run, Shocker is going to try and get those coils in to make sure that he's getting the experience by himself. Because right now, he only has 25, and that's not really a whole lot. But he gets the hit in, drops the creep, gets the XP, but Grubby steals away the Mantle of Intelligence and sets things up for a possible surround, but Shocker is able to move away from it. In the main base, the typical tech into Necropolis, into the tier 2 that we're having from Shocker, Halls of the Dead. That's what he's aiming for. Grubby is already adding up to the top a Tree of Life, so he wants to move over and set an expansion up for himself, trying to dominate through that, which also means that in the main base we don't have a tech into tier 2 yet. Already has the first, well, it's not quite the first, has a second Ancient of War in and builds another one, Hunter's Hall coming in too, so already trying to dominate that early game a little bit through his hero forcing fights, whereas for Shocker it's all about the harass, keep his opponent busy, try and keep him low, tech quickly, and try and just get an advantage through tech and then execute a timing attack on one base. That's what we're going to see from here. And Grubby is double checking all of that. I mean, he moves in with the Wisp, he's trying to find out what exactly his opponent is up to, and is still continuing to creep his heroes, where he's already with a significant lead in experience, far ahead from his opponent. But with the ghouls and the one fiend that has been produced by Shocker down towards the bottom left of the map, we're having him now moving in to the next creep camp and trying to finally correct that problem, at least get the Death Knight on level 2 so he can play with the Unholy Aura here. But we also have now the first item for him, and that's a Circlet of Nobility. So nice stats boost for him. Good detonate by Grubby, taking one of the... doesn't get two. Skeleton minion was moved away, so he gets one, and he drains the Death Knight of some of its mana, which is always a big plus here. And we actually have a Naga. And with a Naga being built, that tells us pretty much what we need to know here. We're going to see a very aggressive game from Shocker. He's going to try and execute a timing and going to play aggressively with that Frost Arrow and trying to therefore take down his opponent. At this point, Tree of Life is making his way over towards the left side, trying to scout this. And guess what? With the Skeleton Warrior moving in, he's already gonna know what's happening here. So this is perfect for Shocker right now. He knows what's coming and he's gonna try and drop especially the Keeper of the Grove. So down to the bottom of the map, Death Knight on 2.5. It's gonna be looking towards level 3. The Naga already proccing their next camp and trying to get the aggro. And once that he has the Death Knight on 3, very likely are we going to see an attack here. He's going for the structures with a double slaughterhouse and already heading straight into tier 3. So all that Shocker wants to do is set a timing attack up, play around that, looking up to the top. The Tree of Life even helping here as a body blocker with the Mercenary camp, which of course means too that the expansion is going to be a bit delayed. Sobi Mask in the hands now. Still no tech into tier 3, but full on Hunter style here. Goes full on into the Hunts, very heavy commitment, and the big battle is going to be a mass amount of tier 1 units with an expansion for Grubby against a tier 3 Undead player with a Naga trying to pressure play and push against the expansion. This is what we're very likely going to be looking at. Already we're seeing the Death Knight now with another Rod of Necromancy. Still the best item on the side of Undead. Like when you look at the Undead shop, it's really what helps you in the early game to creep. It helps you to be very aggressive in big fights as well. Rod of Necromancy is just a must-have. The Naga on 2, so that means next to the coil that we're soon going to get on level 3, we now also have the Fork Lightning. Actually hands over the Belt of Giant Strength towards the Naga, which is also pretty interesting, because it is the primary attribute that we see on the Death Knight. So if you keep it on the decay, it means not only do you get a boost in HP, but you get a damage increase as well. Then again, you're not really attacking with the Death Knight too much on auto attacks. Oftentimes you really want to just like do more with your coil, and the Naga with a good entangle could quickly be focused down by Grubby. So the idea is just simply to keep her alive for as long as you can. Next item for Centrios, our keeper, gets actually now a Wand of Mana Stealing and is starting to really dominate when it comes to position on the map here. Taking down those camps, trying to sneak another one. Grubby actually not even... Yeah, well, the Undead doesn't even see that. Shocker has no idea. But now he sees the Keeper coming in, and Grubby is just simply going for it. He has the high ground now as well. That's, of course, misses that come through if the Undead attacks from the bottom position. We're having an Ancient Protector being built, and with the Glaives coming up, Grubby is going to try and now take this down by sieging up against his opponent. And yep, the Ancient Protector is done. All of a sudden, we're having Grubby turning things around here against his opponent. This is an interesting one. With the Naga Sea Bitch in particular, she's going to try and get the aggression against the Keeper, but now we're having on top of all of it a Goblin Zeppelin that makes it a lot easier for Grubby to save his units here, and he's starting to pressure. The Keeper is still a little bit far behind, but we should see those Glaive Throwers come in very soon. Third hero on the way, so next to the Naga, we are actually going to see now the Lich for the Nova, and Grubby is attacking into someone who has already tier 3 units. The statues are there, and that is the first 100 that falls, second one about to drop, but we're still having that Goblin Zeppelin doing a lot of work. If he can take this one down, that would be a nightmare. Goblin Zeppelin is actually slowed. Grubby trying to escape, but he can't, and he just drops the unit and he's trying to fight this. This is going to be a problem. Shocker already in a decent position here with a triple hero, and he's dropping 100s after another, taking them down one unit at a time. In the inventory now a health stone on the side for Grubby, still attempting to escape with the units. Here comes the Zeppelin, gets taken down, and he will have to TP out of that eventually. Already the Death Knight is a bit low. The Keeper nearly on level 5, but unlikely that he can get another entangle through there in time, and indeed he can't. And now we're having the Town Portal finally being used on Grubby. Wants to be aggressive with the strategy here, is just scouted out a bit too early. Didn't have those Glaive Throwers in the fight yet. And here comes the attack as Shocker just takes this down, has a massive lead now in supply 2 with 46 against 30. Grubby definitely miscalculating a little bit. Also, didn't really know about that high-level Naga on level 3 that we just had there. And now the expansion towards the top is just now getting saturated. So for Grubby, this is starting to become a little bit of an iffy situation. because he's not only behind in supply, but he needs more time. His expansion is fantastic, and if he can stay with that for a bit longer, then he might be able to just get the units pumped through. But if you look at the main base, he's still on tier 1. And Nightelf can definitely do a lot with tier 1 units. They have probably one of the strongest tier 1 setups out of all the races in Warcraft 3. But against high-level heroes on the Undead side, that would definitely be a bit of a problem, especially with the tier 3 tech in. Crystal Ball, pretty shitty item for the Undead. Not what he wants to have here. But he gets, of course, the experience through this now too, which means that the Lich is already on level 2. We have the Death Knight closing in on level 4. And the creep is completed as Grubby comes in. Glaive throw in the back, the big focus onto the Keeper, and he loses it. The level up for the Death Knight. Really bad spot now for Grubby to be in. Loses the Keeper right away, has absolutely no chance of saving him. Walked straight into the heroes here. The Fort Lightning hits, it hits hard, and then the immediate coil comes through, the Keeper down, and now the units are being lost here as well. Pretty tricky situation on the side of Grubby now. I mean, he has the expansion all the way up at the top, currently seeing him mine here as much as he can, but he doesn't have anything that he can really do at this point in time. Already moving away with the units as we speak, up to the top right. Is trying to get the Keeper back into the game, but this is pretty much a distant hope. Shocker is just capitalizing on all the advantages that he has and is starting to move in straight against the expansion. Grubby with a quick detonate against the heroes, but the problem just simply is that he doesn't have a lot of units out on the map. 27 supply are not going to be enough to deal with Shocker, and with the expansion already being low here, the desperate attempt to really just keep that Ancient Protector alive. But not only is there Nova, which is immediately being used, but we're also seeing the Naga in the back who could also follow that up with a Forked Lightning to drop those low HP units. Another coil comes in, the expansion being attacked, the Keeper is back to business, and he's going to try and do his best to somehow force the Undead player to retreat, dropping the Archer over at the Mercenary camp to see if he can maybe afford a little bit more here. Currently not the case, going straight in, trying to focus down that Death Knight. If he can force the Town Portal, he buys himself a bit more time to get the advantages from the expansion. But Shocker is just simply running him into the ground right now. Those Archers don't stand a chance against Forked Lightnings and also the Nova. Too much AoE. GG called, and Shocker takes the game against his opponent here. Wins the series. And yeah, well done by Shocker. Grubby a bit unlucky with a push at the bottom. The strategy not quite working out. And to be fair, it didn't really start out well for him anyways. The loss on the Ancient of War in the early game already setting him back a bit with a tier 1 push that he wanted to execute here. So Shocker, well played, and he's able to take the game and the victory.